as we sit currently about 4 to 3 weeks away from the 2021 NFL Draft, we're in a bit of a state of a lull when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys really making any maneuvers. In this video, I wanted to review their free agency maneuvers and really talk about how I feel the Cowboys did this offseason when it came to bringing guys in, seeing who left, stuff like that. Mainly due to the fact that as we sit here right now, I think that we're pretty much all aware of what the Cowboys did and, why they're pretty much done. So, before I go any further, if you guys could, by all means, make sure to leave a like on this video. It does not take long to do it all, and it really helps the channel out a ton. Also, I recommend you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, along with hitting the notification bell so you don't miss out on new content when it drops. Now, with the whole regard to the grading and as well as how I'm going to be talking about this offseason, this is going to be as of 4/6/21. Anything that happens after this recording and video being posted, that will not be added in here. I'll probably just give updates and stuff like that. But with that being said, let's go ahead and start off with who did the Cowboys decide to bring back. The biggest one was Dak Prescott. Dak was one of the key focal points for the 2021 offseason, and the main reason for that was due to the fact that, look, you need to figure out what you're going to do at your quarterback position. And the way I looked at it, and many of us other content creators and everyone else looked at it, if you were paying attention, there really isn't any options for the Cowboys in the circumstances they're in. There wasn't a free agent out there that the Cowboys could bring in to replace him at a cheaper cost, and there wasn't a prospect that could really step in and fill his shoes immediately. So as a result, the Cowboys did the smart decision and roll with Dak Prescott for the future. I mean, he'll be 28 at the start of next year, and he has plenty of gas left in the tank. I know a lot of people are like, whoa, his knee and his ankle and all this other crap they're trying to pull out to be like, to make it seem like he's air quote injury prone when the guy has really only had the major injury back in 2020 and in 2019, the whole AC joint situation. So I don't want it to seem like, this is something that is a huge issue, because it really isn't. It's more of like a freak incident. So, I mean, look, you bring back your quarterback, it keeps you in the loop in terms of being a perennial playoff team. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to contend for a championship, because I think that's a bit of a ludicrous statement, and I'll explain why I still, why I think that the Cowboys aren't there yet later on. But yeah, I mean, you had to bring Dak Prescott back. He was the biggest free agent you could have brought back. You bring him back on a record-setting deal. Awesome. We roll forward, and we have the quarterback. In terms of who else the Cowboys brought back, a bunch of one-year deals when it comes to the wide receiving core. You bring back Noah Brown, Malik Turner, and Cedric Wilson, all one-year deals. This is something that I really do like. I think that it gives you a chance to really see what you got in these guys. I mean, Noah Brown's going to be 25. Cedric Wilson's going to be 26. So really, you're probably looking to see who can be your wide receiver 4 or 3, assuming Gallup leaves and you can't pay him. So that's the situation. As for Malik Turner, haven't seen a whole lot from him to really formulate an opinion. So I'm not going to say a positive or negative regarding that. If anyone wants to fill me in, by all means. Moving forth to the defensive side of the ball, the Cowboys brought back 2 corners, a defensive tackle, and a defensive end. Starting with the defensive line, you have Rondell Carter back on a 1-year deal. You have Antoine Woods coming back on another 1-year deal as a restricted free agent. And I think that's the biggest question mark, is how is he going to look this year? He's a guy that I think is one of those scrappy players that can produce for you, but in terms of quality starters and stuff like that, he isn't really someone I would build around. And that's not to be insulting to Antoine. It's just the fact of the matter being that, look, he is just, at best, a decent starter that could be somewhat productive, but I wouldn't pay this guy a lot of money. Especially at age 28, I think I could look elsewhere. And then in terms of corners, Cowboys bringing back special teams specialist, CJ Goodwin, on a 2-year contract. This is huge because I feel like CJ is an underrated part of our team. I originally wanted to kind of be like, maybe you can go get someone else. But to be honest with you, he really grew on me as I kind of looked back and, saw his impact on our special teams. So I think that keeping him around is very key, especially since, not to, go further in terms of the departures, but with Joe Thomas leaving, another guy on special teams that was sort of key in that regard. I think it's important you bring back CJ. I think he was more, as time grew on, especially under John Fossil, he was more impactful. In terms of the biggest deal outside of Dak Prescott, Jordan Lewis with a 3-year, $16.5 million deal. The way I look at it is that, the Cowboys don't lose both their corners. And I think with Jordan, this is an interesting situation, mainly due to the fact that, if you were to tell me that Lewis would have been signed over Cheeto, I'm not entirely surprised, but at the same time, a part of me is like, okay, that is a bit interesting. The main reason for that is the Cowboys really had to make a decision on who they wanted to bring back. I think it would have been astronomically terrible if the Cowboys let both Jordan Lewis and Chidobe Awuzie walk without having an ample replacement, which the Cowboys did not get. And I don't want to jump the gun, but I do want to add those points of order to really get a sense of where we're at right now. I think with Jordan, you have him, and you have Trevon Diggs, and you have Anthony Brown as of right now. But I definitely think you really, out of the two of them, I think you should have tried to make a push to bring back Cheeto. Understandable if you decide to move on, but if you're going to move on, you're going to need to make sure that you get a replacement in there. If not, then we're going to be in a situation where, you let Byron Jones walk. And I'm not trying to say both Byron and Cheeto were the same player. That is astronomically false. Byron was a fantastic player that you downgraded when you let him walk. As for Cheeto, you have a guy that's replaceable, but at the same time, he really helped fill a void that you didn't. You really had open when Byron left. So, in terms of the resignings and what the Cowboys did there, on that alone, I would probably give it, a C+. The fact of the matter is that the one thing that's holding this entire thing up is you got Dak Prescott back. As for the other re-signings, there are guys that I would have appreciated the Cowboys maybe trying to make a push to keep. But then again, I'm not super high on these other, departures and like how they would impact us, other than maybe one. So you might say it's a low grading, but then again, it's like, if you want to be even more lenient, maybe a B. Hey, you got everything done, but you really could have possibly brought back a couple more guys. But hey, you know what? Whatever. Moving on to the departures, because this is where, the way I look at it, it's really going to impact how the Cowboys move into this, this new season and where we might see some issues. To start things off, Andy Dalton went off to the Chicago Bears. Not surprised. I'm not shocked that Andy left, especially for that price tag, meaning the Cowboys are in play for a 4th, 5th round compensation pick, depending on how things go. This means that the Cowboys need to fill the void at backup quarterback. I think Garrett Gilbert might suffice for now, but that doesn't mean you can't try to see if you can add someone like another veteran guy. Jimmy Olawale gone. He has yet to be signed by a team, but I think this was an obvious thing. He's never used at all. And I think that, honestly, if you're not going to use the guy, why do you even bother having him on the roster? Also, you have Sewo, so I think that he's the replacement. John Vay Johnson's gone to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't really care. They're really, one of those bottom-tier receivers. Not to insult him, but, to be completely honest with you, if he was able to have some hands, it'd be a completely different situation. Chris Lacey, nothing yet. Blake Bell back to the Chiefs. Cole Hikatuni to the Giants. So the tight end group loses 2 guys. Blake Bell had his moments at some points in time, but ultimately I think you can find someone else. Offensive tackle wise, Cameron Irving, your backup swing tackle, is going to Carolina. Greg Sennett gone to the Browns. Centers Marcus Henry and Joe Looney yet to be signed by a team, but odds are they're gone. Tyrone Crawford off to retirement. Salute to you, my man. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. Aldon Smith will not be returning to the Dallas Cowboys, and it's sad, because it's like, you want to see the guy do well, especially with all he's been through, but at the same time, maybe with the scheme change, and this is what I'm thinking, it's the scheme change, and maybe the Cowboys, something is under the rug that we don't know about. Eli Anko, nothing yet. Sean Lee, Justin March Lillard, still yet to be determined. Odds are Sean Lee could be back, given the circumstances where we're at right now. Joe Thomas off to Houston. It's going to suck seeing him go in terms of a guy that has that ability to, be a solid guy on special teams. But then again, I think you can definitely upgrade with a guy like him. Cheeto, another key situation in which you have a guy on your defense leaving. He's replaceable, like I mentioned before, but again, that's a void you still have to fill at outside corner. He goes off to Cincinnati. Xavier Woods, so long, off to Minnesota. So, again, if you've followed my channel for the longest time, you would know I absolutely despise Xavier Woods, mainly due to the fact of his lack of effort. And really just, I feel like you could definitely have done better in the past in terms of who you had at safety. So, luckily, the Cowboys move on there. Chris Jones released. I got to give a salute to him as well, with how long he's been here. Obviously, towards the end, not very productive. But again, he was a good player with us. So I don't want to make it seem like he was absolutely terrible. So I thank him for what he's done at punter. But with Hunter Nicewander at punter, he's your guy going forward. So I'm glad that the Cowboys were able to find a replacement and successor to Chris Jones. And probably the most disheartening, LP Ladouceur. He will no longer be the long snapper for the Dallas Cowboys. I know I talked about him being re-signed, and that's what information said. Like, hey, he got a new contract. I'm like, okay, cool. He's got one more year. Close to breaking Jason Wynn's record for most games as a Cowboy, if I recall. Yeah. And unfortunately, he won't be back. So, again, salute to him. He's the last relic of the Bill Parcells era. And, one of the last players that really was a part of the whole Texas Stadium situation. But, with him, being a part of that era. And so he's gone. In terms of these departing free agents, I'm going to leave this as just a basic, I'm going to leave it as as much as I want to give it a grade, I'm not super high on any of these guys. It's not like last year. I'm going to probably give it a C-, mainly due to the fact that Cheeto is gone. And, maybe with LP going, that could be an issue. But then again, I'm not... Don't take what I said there with a full, oh, this is exactly what he thinks. No, I think that LPU needed to find his replacement, and I think the Cowboys might have found that, but still, you don't know. So I'm probably going to go with a C-. Then again, there wasn't really a whole lot there. Finally, to the signings, well, with them being minimal, to be fair, how did they stack up? Dallas gave out all one-year deals except for one guy, which was Terrell Basham. But to go from offense to defense, there was only one offensive player that the Cowboys brought in on a new deal. Or not even on a new deal, but rather a new guy coming in here. And that's Ty Nishke. I don't know. I feel like I butchered that name. If I did, if someone can tell me how to properly pronounce his name. 36 years old from the Buffalo Bills. 1 year, $1.75 million contract. He's basically your backup swing tackle right now until you find someone else. Not that big of an issue. I think he's a solid backup. I'm not looking at anything special. Brent Urban, an interesting signing from the Chicago Bears for the same length and amount of, that being the contract. He is a really solid run stuffer. The only problem is that he will be a rotational guy. I'm not saying this man is worth starting. I'm not saying that he's worth being thrown off a bridge. The problem is, I feel like he was a guy that you should sign as a complementary piece. Similar to how we had McCoy and Poe last year. I felt like if you could have gotten him and a Dalvin Tomlinson, I would have definitely been praising the signing a lot more. I think you need more. He's more of those complementary guys. Carlos Watkins, same deal in terms of length and amount. From the Houston Texans, he's a camp body in my opinion at most. I'm not expecting him to make the roster. I don't have that vibe of him. I feel like that's the vibe I'm getting, camp body. Then you have Terrell Basham on a 2-year, $6.5 million deal. I think when you look at this, it gives me the same vibes as the Brent Urban situation. I think he's going to be a solid rotational guy, not a starter quality type of guy. And I don't have an issue with that. I think that the fact that you have Aldon Smith leaving, it leaves a void at, who's going to be the backup there. And I think you can definitely draft a guy if you want to be more comfortable at that edge position. Look, Terrell was probably in a situation to where, and not even probably, this is just a matter of fact, he's more of a 4-3 guy. And I'm not saying this in terms of coping or just saying this to justify the move. That's just the fact. When he was playing in New York, they were running that 3-4 type of defense, and he just didn't fit that, so he didn't really translate well. I think with him coming to Dallas, at best, he can be a solid guy that gives you a couple sacks and get you some pressures if things work out, but ultimately, I'm not looking at him on a very high level. Moving to the safeties, which is crazy. This is probably the longest, it's been the longest time since the Cowboys really addressed the safety position. Not saying that this is the full-on cure we've been looking for, but it's something. You have DeMonte Casey from the Atlanta Falcons on a 1-year, $1.127 million deal. In case you're wondering, him coming from the Dan Quinn scheme, he's one of those guys that are familiar with what the defense can do, what with the language and stuff like that. I think it's something that's extremely important. I think another thing that we need to be aware of is that, I understand that people mention him and Keanu Neal in the same breath of, oh, they're hurt guys. If you really look at the statistics and you really look at what happened, he only had the torn Achilles tendon last year. And again, I'm not trying to overblow that. Once you get hurt in that type of magnitude, that could be an issue. But again, it's a 1-year situation. And I think for the Cowboys, this could be a pretty good signing, especially if he ends up being a solid ball hawk. I'm not saying that he's going to be the next big thing. All I'm asking him to do is be better than Xavier Woods. I think if you could put him along with Donovan Wilson back there, I think that could be solid. Nothing absolutely outer worldly, but I think that's where we sit currently. He had 7 interceptions in 2018, being the co-leader. And, I think as long as we can continue to improve the defense, you'll see those guys in the secondary improve in terms of getting interceptions. And we really need to, get this defensive front fixed. Jaron Kearse from the Detroit Lions, another 1-year, $1.27 million deal. And in this specific instance, I think that, look, he's a backup guy. I think that you bring him in, you probably have him behind Donovan Wilson going forward. But it's just hard to pinpoint because a lot of these guys are backups when I keep looking at them. Now, Keanu Neal's a starter. Him and Casey are your starters at the, Casey's starting at free safety. Neal's going to be one of your starters at the linebacker. It was made evident, and Mike McCarthy said this, that Keanu's going to start with the linebackers. I mean, he's going to be 26 when the year starts. He's on a 1-year, $5 million deal. I think out of all of the signings, in my honest opinion, this is the best one. Here's why. You have a guy that has that flexibility to be a strong safety along with a linebacker. I think Keanu fits more of that linebacker type of role in terms of that free roaming guy that's not afraid to hit you hard. And it's important because we have seen that the league is transitioning to these safeties / linebackers type of guys, and I think Keanu is that type of individual. I mean, you look at his statistics, and I know that tackles can be one of those weird stats and stuff like that. He doesn't get a whole lot of interceptions, but he flies around the football field. He's had 100 combined tackles in all of the years he wasn't hurt. And in 2018, he has the torn ACL, and then in 2019, he had the issue with his Achilles. 2020 had a productive year, so I really can see the Dallas Cowboys benefiting from Keanu Neal's play and production. So I could see him signing on a cheap deal, maybe like a 2 to 3 year deal if things work out. And it puts pressure on that linebacking core, to get stuff done. Finally, Jacob McQuaid from the Los Angeles Rams at age 34 on a 1-year, $1.2 million deal. He's your successor to LP. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler with the Rams as a long snapper. And I understand that that's, whatever. I know some people be like, oh, man, who cares? But the biggest thing is that he has that familiarity with John Fossil. And I think that he can be a really good type of player for some time. I know he's on the older side of things, but I mean, as long as you have someone that can come in and do the job for a couple years, that'd be fantastic. So it's just interesting to see him and Greg Zuerlein back there. That's going to be an intriguing situation. But yeah, in terms of the signings, I'd probably give it a C+. You get some guys that you needed to go get, but ultimately no real impact, guys. So if you were to put a gun to my head and say, Space, what would you grade this offseason? Gotta go with a C. That's just me being completely real with you guys. The Cowboys didn't do anything remotely crazy or anything that we didn't expect them to do. I'm not saying they had to go sign everybody, but when you look at it on the down low, you brought back the guys you really were supposed to bring back in terms of Dak, more specifically. You let guys go where it's like, okay, whatever, but you really could have brought back some of these other guys. And then in terms of signings, just backup bargain basement guys, which with medium reward, low risk type of guys. So I'm not really that impressed. I don't want to make it seem like I'm being the Debbie Downer, but this is why I said at the beginning of the video why Dallas is not in that perennial contender situation. You have the quarterback, so why is it that this is an issue? If you're not paying to get these holes plugged up in free agency, you're going to be screwed. Like, if you don't do anything, you're at a situation in which basically you're stuck in neutral. So if I'm Dallas, you need to figure that out. So I greatly appreciate everyone for tuning in for this longer form of video. I understand that it's a lot of information. It's been a while since I posted, so I greatly appreciate everyone tuning in. So I'll let you guys go, and we'll see how things go going forward. We're getting closer and closer to the draft, so we'll be doing more draft content. That's what I'm looking to do in my next video, is discuss my personal favorites in terms of prospects who I think the Cowboys are looking at, and out of those who I would like. So with that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video. Alright guys, have a good one. Bye-bye.